Hey, hey, hey. Welcome back to the official podcast of Development Unplugged. I'm still setting up here and I have cats all over. That was Grumpito, by the way. I think that's the first time Grumpito jumps in on frame during a podcast, at least in English. The last few weeks, Kinder has been here and Kit Kat is always here, but yes, I believe that was a first for Grumpito, but you didn't get to see him very well. They're being very, 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 very active right now. They're jumping around everywhere. Oh my goodness. Crazy, 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 crazy. Anyway, welcome everyone. Bear with me here for a second while I just share the stream a little bit. And yeah, we're going to get started on today's topic. I'm going to be joined here in a couple of minutes. Don't worry. Okay, so let me see. I'm just gonna share this one here. The cats are hyperactive. They're gonna break something right now. Oh my. Good times, good times, good times. There we go. Okay. So, anyway, today's episode is going to be about how to improve your learning efficiency. It's about... Okay. Did you guys see that? Did you guys just catch that? Oh my goodness. That is Kinder fighting against... Kit Kat and Kinder fighting and hissing at each other. Oh my goodness. And Grumpito might have just barely been in frame. Yeah, that was Grumpito, the third one. So now you finally got to meet all three of our cats. Yeah. So it's apparently their show today. Forget about Des and I. It's going to be the cats' show as far as I can tell. They're going to teach you guys about how to improve your learning efficiency. Yeah. Good times, good times. I didn't even notice what was going on. All of a sudden, I just heard a big hiss, and I just felt something climbing behind me. I was like, "Oh, okay." So let's get started. Yes, and Manatee says, "Aw." So, well, that's probably not. I don't even know how to say the right "aw" because that sounded like disappointed, but there's more like a cute "aw," probably. So. Good times, good times, good times. They're finally chill. All three cats are now just laying there, just like, hopefully they got it out of their system. So, today's episode, learning efficiency. We're going to be talking about how to improve learning efficiency. In particular, we're going to look a little bit about how we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot when it's time to learn something new. We often shoot ourselves in the foot because we get frustrated, we get annoyed, we get upset. And right now, a lot of people are experiencing this whole remote work thing or attending school from home and having to do the whole home learning thing. A lot of people are having a hard time learning new things or relearning what they already know to adapt to this new situation. And it's a little bit messy. For a lot of people. Not for everyone, but for a lot of people, it's like, oh, this is annoying, this is inconvenient. And the problem is when we get stuck in the whole, this is annoying, this is inconvenient, we don't even open ourselves up to see the possibilities. So we're going to kind of work it in stages. We're going to look at what stages are there to this process of getting into a situation of learning. And the first stage is literally just be like, okay, first of all, I got to look at the opportunities, not the obstacles. And if I look at the obstacles, I got to look at them not as these unsurmountable tasks, but rather as manageable things, but I need to figure out how I make them more manageable. So that means maybe I have to regenerate, I have to recharge, maybe I have to disconnect, maybe I have to calculate a different route, maybe I need to ask for help, maybe I need to learn something new, maybe I need to take a class in something. And then I can get to that point where it suddenly becomes easy instead of becoming overwhelming and unsurmountable. I'm about to get joined. I can see Des is pretty much ready. She's grabbing some water in the kitchen. But I want you to identify which stage are you having most challenges with when they're when you're in a process of needing to adapt to a new reality or learn a new skill set. What type of insecurities come in? What type of excuses come up? Do you procrastinate? Do you get distracted with other things? Do you find it hard to focus and finish things? Where in the process are you at? Because we all kind of get frustrated. Oh, you even put a different case on. That looks cute. Welcome, welcome. So now Des has joined. There we go. I'll give you a microphone. Do you like the camera in this setup better?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, even change the lens. Because Des, after watching the Spanish podcast, was like, I don't like the look. I need it to be different. So I don't know what you do with the camera, but you got to make it different. So I changed the lens. So now it's looking. You did not like that. Okay, I'll see. I'll start using this lens more. Anyway, welcome, welcome, welcome. You should probably speak a little louder and a little closer.
Okay, these things are.
I forgot to give you pillows.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna give you pillows while you tell our beautiful viewers about how you are an English teacher and how this whole changing to online thing has brought up a lot of insecurities and denial, and how some people you've worked with have been in denial, but while others have been focused on learning, and all the cool things you're doing with Minicam and things to adapt, and how it's all of a sudden kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, definitely. When this pandemic started, a lot of teachers, especially me, I was one of them that we were just like, oh my goodness, what's gonna happen with our jobs? We're not gonna go to work. Thankfully, the job that I had then still paid us, regardless if we didn't like go to work. Eventually, that came back to bite a, that came back to bite me in the ass because then I got more hours and oh, okay, hold on. This one, I'm gonna sit on a pillow because I'm very very short. um, yeah, and but anyway, what was I saying about my job? Oh my gosh, I'm so distracted.
I don't know that you came to bite you in the ass because you got more hours.
Afterwards I got more hours, but it was very difficult to really adapt to online at first. But then I realized that I could be giving classes to anyone anywhere in the world. And this online thing actually became quite easy. And that's the thing. It could be a challenge at first, but then you realize, then you see like the beauty in it. And now I have a student from the US. I have students from different parts of the country, and it's incredible how I can connect with these students. And if the pandemic wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't have met them, which is quite good because it opened a lot of doors to me. Like, teaching doesn't only have to be nearby, it could be from someone from another country. And it really helped me a lot. And not only that, like I left my not so good job because I was like, I can reach out to other schools. I don't have to stay because I really like this job because it was really close to home. It was 5 minutes away. And I didn't want to leave there because it was my comfort zone. But when I realized I could go to other schools, I can be and work in a school that's across the city. Um, I could do that and get paid more. So that's what I did. I adapted myself, and it was really fun. It's really fun, and I'm still learning how to give classes online because, well, obviously adults are a bit easier because they want to learn, they're there to learn, but kids are a challenge. And I've been learning how to play games, how to do yoga, how to dance. Like, I bet my neighbor next door just probably laughs his ass off when he sees me giving class because I'm literally like dancing and singing and playing. And I like it because the first job that I had as a teacher sucked the creativity out of me, and sucked everything, the way I wanted to give classes, and I was forced to give a class the way that they wanted to. And now I'm getting all that back. I'm starting to be more creative again. I'm starting to really own my class and be the leader of my class. And it's amazing to be learning these things because if I'm not learning something, I get really drained and I get really bored in a job that I feel like I'm not learning. um, or growing. And so I really, really have liked this whole online thing, and how I'm learning to give classes to kids. And right now I have a class where there's like 12 kids, and there are 12 kids in this class, and it's a 2 hour class. And I never thought kids could sit on a screen and
You
take
never met me
like
then.
I could not think that kids could ever be able to do that, and they're 4-year-old kids. And thankfully, with what I've learned, I'm able to keep those kids for 2 hours and for them to have so much fun. And it's incredible that they pay attention and stuff. So yeah.
Jose Luis says, hello. Hello. Thank you for being here. Yeah, it's funny because at the beginning of the pandemic, Des got into this very frustrated state. She was crying at night up until 4 a.m. in her first job, because the first job, her boss was in denial about this whole pandemic and had this idea that we would go back to school, and really kind of adapted but very reactively to the whole online thing, and didn't really focus on how to do it the best way. Just kind of flip-flopped a lot based on all the comments and all the challenges. And of course there are going to be challenges along the way. Of course people are going to be frustrated. Parents are frustrated, kids are frustrated, teachers are frustrated. No one has any clue what to do. And it's like, okay, I have to learn this all over again and learn a whole different style. In her first job, everyone was like, it was a lot of drama, and the whole team quit, basically.
Yeah. No, because every single job that I've had before, well, no, it's happened twice. Not every single job, but it's happened twice. Twice I've gotten into and actually Jose Luis, that's watching this, used to be an ex coworker with me, and he knows that I'm not lying about this. I also had my first job where literally a team of 12 quit that company because we were treated so badly. And it happened again with the first school that I started teaching here in Mexico City. A whole team of 12 quit.
Yeah.
And it's because like you don't settle for these jobs. Like I remember when I wanted to quit this job, my the first thing my boss said was like, okay, so you're quitting this job. From the beginning I wasn't so sure about you because you're so young compared to the other teachers. And she's like, and what are you going to do if you find another job? You're just going to quit that job again. But
She lasted over a year there, by the way.
Lasted over a
It
year.
wasn't like she just got her feet wet and left.
And we had problems since the beginning with the payments, with just discrimination. Like I cried so bad. I've never had a job where I got paid less for being Mexican or because of the color of my skin. And I gave her an opportunity to explain herself, to really just tell me why I was getting paid less. And out of all the teachers there, I was like, why is me and the other two Mexicans that were working there, why are we getting paid less? And I was the one working more hours, and I was getting paid.
No, and you had a better accent than most.
And that's what Yannick says.
No, you have a native accent. Like you grew up in the US. Most of the people that you work with, they had very, very thick accents.
Yeah, and it was really scary. And so like it's happened to me twice that I go in with an amazing group with amazing coworkers, and it's no one's fault. Like I didn't blame my coworkers just because they were from like Europe and they were getting paid more. Like it wasn't their fault. It was obviously the director's fault. And I never blame my coworkers because, well, it's not their fault. But I came in with a team of 12, and every single one of them, as soon as we figured out that we were getting paid less because of our race and because of the color of our skin and all of that, I was just so like, I gave her a chance since December, and I was just like, I'm out of here. Like, I can't take this. I would literally cry at night till 4 a.m. and I would tell Yannick, I don't want to do this summer course. I no longer want to be here. Like, it was so bad.
And Jose Luis says, I remember your classes. They were amazing. And he says, true story about the thing that happened in the first job that you're mentioning. And he goes, I wish my accent was as good as yours.
Boo, your accent is amazing. What are you talking about? like quick story. Jose Luis and I met him in my first ever teaching job, and actually he came in a day after I came in, so we took training together as teachers, like at the same time. We had a whole week of training and we were together, and so we really grew as teachers together because we came in at the same time and we took training and all of that. So yeah, Jose Luis and I are really close because he saw me grow as a teacher. It was my first teaching job. I don't know if it was his first teaching job, but it was mine. And so I was like very new to everything and we both grew together as teachers.
Jose Luis, are you still a teacher during this whole pandemic thing? Are you doing remote teaching? Are you doing teaching in person? Are you doing private classes? How do things look for you right now during the pandemic? We'd like to know.
This microphone is so up high that it covers my beautiful face.
It's because you pick chairs that are so low. If we use the other chairs that you don't like,
I deny myself on using the other chairs because they are so uncomfortable. Like they're beyond uncomfortable. I can't.
Yeah, in the Spanish podcast, we have these like bar stool things.
No, they make my back hurt.
Which are the right height, but she likes these that have better back support, and I agree, these are better.
They give me anxiety, honestly.
So anyway, so the point I was mentioning about her going through tough time at the beginning of this pandemic, and then we got a little sidetracked with the whole everyone quitting thing. But the story behind that was when the pandemic hit, her director was in panic mode, but also denial at the same time. So it was very, very interesting how she was freaking out, but also in denial, so she wasn't doing the prep that needed to be done for the changes. Jose Luis says, I was doing great with private classes. Right now I'm teaching online, but with a school. Oh, awesome. Yeah. Yeah, right now that's what we're seeing that a lot. I mean, there's so many opportunities online. A lot of people are choosing to study languages and things right now because...
Like the podcast, even before the podcast, I got a message from someone that had offered me a job like a month ago, and they're still like, I literally just realized that I had 10 messages from them saying, hey, are you still interested in the job? Hey, can you send your resume? Hey, this and that. And I just realized that I got so many messages, and I'm not going to lie. Like at the beginning of this pandemic, I was afraid. I didn't know what was going to happen. But as soon as I quit my job and I started sending my resume, Yannick helped me made my resume. I
made sure she looked really good on paper.
Literally handed to me. I had people calling me saying this and this and that. And I remember like I had this one job that was in Florida and it was amazing. It was a perfect job for me, but the payment was not as good. And I was like, I'm not going to do this again where I get paid so small amount. And these people, like, they sent me messages. They were really interested in me.
And negotiating and trying different things.
But I gave what I wanted to get paid an hour. And I'm like, I am not going to work for anything less. Yeah. And so obviously after a while, it didn't work out. It was an amazing job, like amazing opportunity. But I'm like, I need to get paid this. And I'm sick and tired of getting paid less for that. And all of a sudden, one time I saw this post at 1 a.m. from this lady that said, I need an English teacher. It has to be like a private teacher, blah, blah, blah. And it was so weird. And I sent this girl a message at 1 a.m. and I was like, hey, and she's like, send a message to this number in the morning. And so I send my resume. I send it, like I woke up early that day. As soon as I woke up, I sent my resume in and everything. And it was so incredible that this school gave me exactly what I wanted. They paid me exactly how much I wanted to get paid.
Even without her asking, it was just like, this is our rate. I was like, oh my goodness. I love you guys. This is exactly what I was looking for.
In the mornings, I only work up to 2 hours or 3 at most in the mornings, and it's only from like 9 a.m. to like 11, and I have the whole day free to give private classes, to do whatever I want with my day, and it's just pretty awesome how I was just like sitting in my bed a few days before that job, and I was like, I really need a job like this, please.
No, it was crying, it was stressing out, it was overwhelmed, it was like
also like believing in myself that it would happen. And it was so incredible how that happened. I remember telling Yannick, and I was super happy. I'm like, I'm gonna and exactly what I want to get paid.
And she's been getting private students that have been paying her her the rate that she wants and
Even
deserves
beyond
now.
the rate that I
Like starting to get to a point where things have gotten more in line with what she was looking for. And Jose Luis says it's been hard since this thing started. Yeah, it's definitely been a period of readaptation for everyone. And Manatee says, "Fix my resume too, Yannick. Help."
no,
Anytime,
Yannick
anytime.
made me look like I was a professional
What?
teacher. Like something Yannick was all like, you were gonna have jobs looking for you. And I did not believe him. I was like, you know what, babe? All of these teachers out here in Mexico City, they have a bunch of courses, they have the teachers, they have some of them go to the NAM, some of them have like these like their careers and everything. And I don't have what is that called?
A university degree or
University degree. Like I don't have it. I literally just passed a test and went through training and I passed like
she
I
did
did
her
other
TOEFL.
tests. I did the TOEFL test and then when they told me, "Hey, you have the level to give to be an English teacher," then I was like, "Oh, okay." And then that's how I became a teacher. And I literally I always say this not to sound browdy, but I'm always in the right spot at the right time. Like all my jobs that I've been given, like I've only gone to like 3 or 2 like interviews, but all my other jobs, like one time I was giving class to this lady that was a director of a high school. I didn't even know she was a director from a high school. And she saw my first class and she was like, "Hey, after class she came close to me. She's like, "Hey, I have a high school. Do you want to be a teacher? I don't like the teacher that I have now. Do you want to work for me?" And I was like, "Okay." And she's like, she was like, "I usually do an interview and a demo class, and but I already saw the way you speak and the way you give class, and I want you in my school. Like, can you start on Monday?" And I was just like, "What?" Like, it's been so crazy how I get these jobs. I'm just there at the right time, and I guess it's because I'm really confident when I teach. And regardless of the age of the person, or regardless of how older they are than me, I always try to give my best. Um, and so, like, it's been weird how these people just come up to me and they're like, "I totally love the way you speak or the way that you give class. Do you want to work with me?" And then they recommend me with other people. And then that's where I ended up today.
Jose Luis abandoned us for 2 minutes, and he's back. He says, "We are back. Don't think I left," and he disappeared. Don't think I didn't notice. Don't think I didn't notice. I'm quite offended, and I'm quite sad that you left for a couple of minutes. Yeah. Yeah, we're quite hurt here. Just kidding. Anyway, so one thing that this whole kind of what Des is talking about is important to reflect on is sometimes, and we've mentioned this in previous podcasts. Sometimes we get in our comfort zone. Sometimes we settle for things that are not working.
What's this topic? I forgot.
To improving learning efficiency. So we have to get into kind of how to teach, how to learn, how all of that. But
I usually don't know the topics of these things until like 1 minute or 5 minutes before. And then Yannick's all like, "Oh, hey, by the way, we're talking about this." And I'm like, "Okay." And I remember like the first day that
you can tell she's an extrovert in that sense.
Like the first podcast we made, he literally had to tell me things a week before, and I'm like, yeah. He's like, "We have to discuss what we're going to talk about." I'm like, yeah. And then I just come on here, and now it's like 1 minute before or 5 minutes before the podcast, and he's like, "Oh, by the way, this is the topic," and I'm like, "Oh."
Yeah, no, but this is a good topic because you have a lot of experience with this. So it's actually something worth really looking at because. When the pandemic hit, Des was very overwhelmed, very sad, very stressed, and it was a very difficult period in that job. And people around her, not here in the office, but at her work and stuff, they kind of put limiting ideas in her head. Her boss also manipulated her a bit.
Yeah, fun teacher. Fun, but I'm also very strict when it comes to my teaching. Like I
don't think you're ambitious.
Yes, like
you want results driven.
Yeah, I push my students, and if they're in a high level, Spanish is not an option, and they have to speak to me in English. And then like I'm very strict when it comes. Like I'm very ambitious for them to learn and to really push them. And a problem that I had in this job that Yannick is talking about is I did spelling bees weekly so my students could see their progress. I made them write, I made them do this, I made them do that, and and I remember when we went into the summer course, one of the one of the people in coordination strictly told me, "Hey, don't be boring. Don't do boring activities," because I was known to pushing students and I was known to not play around so much. Because I mean, these were kids that they were like what, 12 years old, 8 years old, like teachers were used to making arts and crafts during the whole class. And I'm like, no, arts and crafts should be like 15 minutes tops or 20 minutes tops. And then the rest of the class, you should have them writing, reading, and speaking. Um, but no, and I remember when they told me that, and I told Yannick, and I was like, "Am I a boring teacher? Like, is it bad?" And yeah, and I was just told, "Don't do boring activities. Don't make them write. Don't make them read. Basically, we're just gonna do arts and crafts." And I did a summer course myself. As soon as I quit this job, I made a summer course, and I got students, and the parents knew. Like I told them, your kids are going to write. They're going to read, and it was so incredible for me to have the control to do that. When this school was just like shutting me down and saying like, we can only have fun. Like don't do boring
No, and
things.
that first job, and this is something very important. This first job, she had convinced Des that kids can only last half an hour in a digital class.
Yeah.
So she started being like, okay, well, if they're under this age, they should do half an hour classes. And she bought that idea. Like she convinced herself of that based on the training or the guidance or conclusions, premature conclusions that her previous job had.
Yeah.
And then this new job was like, no, we're going to do an hour. And then they had some other challenges with some other teachers and some other things. And they're like, you know what? We're going to do 2 hours now. And first it was like an hour. Let's see if they last. And then 2 hours. Oh my goodness. I got to step up to the plate here. And then recently, like the last week, she's been doing 2-hour classes. And she comes to me after each class. She's like, I'm surprised. I didn't believe they could last so long. And they're not even bored. And they're having fun. And they're doing this. And it's surprising. And I'm impressed. And wow, I'm so happy. And I'm learning so much. And they're learning so much. And wow, wow, wow. But she, even with the interview with this boss, the new boss, the one that was like, no, they last an hour too. It's just about making it dynamic. And we're going to try this software. We're going to do this and we're going to do that. And we're going to put in graphics and we're going to put in videos and we're going to put in exercise and games and this and that. So so they don't get bored and they move around a bit. And they basically, like this other new boss of hers was like, I know the pandemic is gonna last, and she was not in denial. I was like, this is gonna last a year or two, so like I'm gonna prepare for it. And this is what I see is working. This is what I see we can do. And she really focused on kind of adapting to the situation instead of being in denial. And she was like, there's this software. I don't know what it's called, but there's this software. It's called Minicam.
And it's amazing.
Where you can
really recommend it to all the teachers. It's
Yeah.
a really good software.
Yeah, Jose Luis, if you haven't tried Minicam, try it.
Oh, and I was also going to tell you, if you're having trouble with classes, one thing that a hack that I learned during this pandemic, don't just post online classes like you're in Acapulco. Don't just only post in those groups. Really try to go into groups around the whole country and post your ads there. And also in the US, try to find Mexican groups where it's like Mexicans in Orlando, Florida, or Mexicans in Oregon, or Mexicans in California, and post your ads there. Like I literally got a student from Texas, and really like one thing that I've learned in this pandemic is we have to learn to adapt ourselves, and maybe we don't want to, but we see really good positive things that come out when we learn, when we open ourselves to learn new things. This pandemic obviously made a lot of us get out of our comfort zone. Maybe for some that worked at home, it was perfect. They no longer had the responsibility to really go out. But for a lot of us, it was like, oh my goodness, I don't like giving online classes, and now I love them. And it's really about learning and really, really making yourself grow. And instead of complaining and looking at, like I said this in the beginning of the pandemic, and people thought I was crazy. But instead of looking at all of the negative that this pandemic has brought to us, one of the main reasons why I've been able to survive so much, and one of the reasons why right now during a pandemic I'm making more money than I've ever made as a teacher ever in my whole entire life, was because I decided to think on the positive instead of looking, and we live close to a hospital. Obviously, there's ambulances all the time, and instead of listening to those and being like, "Oh my goodness, another person," instead of watching the news or the radio and just like I had a lot of people, I knew a lot of people that were looking at all these negative things and saying like, "Oh my gosh, we're gonna be in lockdown for a month or for 2 months or for 3 months or until August or until October." I told myself we are going to be in quarantine. This pandemic is going to last 2 years, and I since the beginning I set that mindset on myself. So I didn't get my hopes up, and I didn't, expect to be back in August to school. And I told myself, and I remember Yannick telling me this is going to last 2 years. They're just saying this so people don't freak out. So I told myself this is gonna last 2 years. I'm going to be like this 2 years, and I'm like, what am I going to do about it? And so instead of complaining about it, instead of being like, oh my gosh, this, oh my gosh, that's this and that, what I did was, where is the positive in all of this? And I started with little things like, oh my goodness, this is good for global warming. Like, we can see Mexico City, like most of the city from our window. And there are more days now when it rains and you can see the volcano from Puebla. Like, that's how clean the air gets. And the air quality has been better, and it's amazing how this helped people realize about the global warming and all this whole situation. And also it made us more human. It actually made us bring our feet back to earth and be like, we are not like unstoppable humans. Like we are like, it brought us back to earth to realize we're just humans, and all the damage that we have caused to our planet and all of those things. And instead I focus on that. I focus on everything positive, and also I focus on the fact that there was a lot of people getting divorced, but Yannick and I's relationship has survived so many things. Like, I always tell him, I'm ready to marry you. I'm ready to marry you because we went through sickness together. We went through a family member very close to him passed away. So I seen him in that state. I seen him having money problems. I've seen him, he's seen me sick with mental issues. And then we both went through a pandemic that happens every 100 years. So I'm like, I think we are ready to marry each other because we had literally the 1 year that we've dated has been by far the worst. But instead of complaining about how this is affecting our relationship and I wish we would have done more things in that 1 year, I'm just like, 1 year and we have already went through more than anyone has gone through maybe in 30 years of their marriage. So I also try to focus on that, on the fact that it really tested our relationship, and a lot of people thought I was crazy. A lot of people thought that I was going to crack. But here I am 6 months into this pandemic, and my life is absolutely incredible, and I'm making so much money because I decided to learn and I decided to focus my mindset on something positive instead of the negative. And why are you laughing?
Well, there are two comments from Manatee. One is, yeah, learning has to be fun, regardless of being kids or adults. And then two, air quality is getting better with the pandemic. People are at home most of the time. And then she goes, hey, I'm invited to the wedding, right? Of course. You'll probably have to wait a while because we're not in a rush, but we're both at peace with, like, you know what? We're in a good place, and we've survived a lot of very interesting tests,
Yeah.
and without killing each other, so that, or ourselves. Both of those are good things. Like, and that's the thing. Sometimes in the podcast we talk about this. Sometimes just getting out of bed is like, you know what, we got out of bed today. And sometimes like, we didn't kill ourselves today. We didn't kill each other today. Sometimes that's what you got to look at. Okay. I mean, I know it's not a high bar, but it's sometimes it's just, you got to take all the wins you can get, and sometimes you got to celebrate, especially during times of adversity. And it's very, very important that what Des is saying is, look at the opportunities that there are when things get tough, and open yourself up to learn and adapt. If you get stuck, these cats are super, super active today. If you get stuck in the whole resentment, denial, neglect, conspiracy theories, politicizing of the whole situation, the ego of masculinity, of mask or no mask, and all these, distractions and like all these things that are stopping you from actually taking control of your life and growing. It's like it's going to be the worst period ever. But if you actually take this time and be like, you know what, okay, the reality is we're going through something difficult. It's annoying, it's frustrating, it's inconvenient, it's challenging me to face fears faster than I thought. It's no longer an option to stay in my comfort zone. I have to step out of my comfort zone. Actually, my comfort zone was removed from under me. So I guess like now I have to step up. And in the beginning of the pandemic, in different ways, both Des and I went into panic mode. Oh my goodness, this is overwhelming, and why now, and why this, and why like this, and like a lot of resentment and frustration and neglect and denial and this and that. But the moment we each in our respective careers and projects and both together and as individuals, we looked at, you know what? There's so much opportunity right now. What can I learn? What can I explore? How can I level up? How can I adapt? And honestly, some of the best work we've done in both of our careers has been because this situation has challenged us and has forced us to level up. And it's wonderful when you stop seeing obstacles, or you see obstacles, you regenerate, you ask for help, you learn something, you study something, you adapt, and then you level up. Like Des, she quickly realized, okay, I have these things that regenerate me, I have these things that drain me, I have these insecurities, but I have these goals, and I'm gonna stay on track with these goals. And I love learning, and I love growing, and I love being challenged. And yes, she would throw her tantrums in the process.
No, don't get me wrong. I might sound positive and all jolly Molly here, but no. I literally cry at least once a week. I cry. I throw tantrums, and I'm like, I've even told Yannick, like, I don't want to live anymore. Like, obviously my mental health has been affected during this pandemic. I mean, even people that didn't have mental issues before now experience anxiety, now have panic attacks. But there are nights that I just tell Yannick, like, I can't take this any longer. Like, I just want to die. And there are moments where I have anger issues. Everybody, I don't know if everybody in the podcast knows this, but I have anger issues, and I've been trying to really work on them. I've had them since I was little. And obviously with the pandemic, with the fact that I don't have as many distractions and I'm not out and about with my life, they've become a bit stronger. They haven't been this strong probably since I was 12 years old. But they have become really strong to the fact that, yes, I do sometimes throw things and break things, and they're my things, they're not Yannick's, because I can never bring myself to break someone else's property. Obviously that's not who I am, but I do sometimes like throw a candle or something. And recently I threw a plant that really meant a lot to me, and now I'm like begging Yannick to fix it because it meant a lot to me. It's a gift that I bought for myself when I moved into my first apartment thing. And
apartment thing.
But what was I getting to the point of this?
The point of all of this is to realize that right now we're talking about how we've kind of gone through this adapting and learning and growing and facing all these challenges. And for you to realize that if you're still stuck or frustrated, it's okay. Like, we've cried, we have gotten frustrated, we've been defeated, we've been felt a roller coaster of emotions
with Yannick.
And like I'm not a crier. Before the pandemic, before the pandemic, I was not a crier. During the pandemic, I certainly have cried. It's something that it's sometimes when we are in a position where we have to learn and grow and adapt, it brings out the biggest fears in us and the biggest insecurities in us. And that process of facing those fears, stepping up to the plate, learning something new, adapting and changing your path and recalculating your route when there are big obstacles on the road, it can be a daunting task, but it's not impossible. Actually, when you get through that process, you feel stronger and more powerful. And Des right now is talking like mentioning all the kind of hardship with her mental health during this period, but she's also sharing that look, I'm making more money, I'm being more successful, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm proud of what I'm doing, I'm more confident in a lot of areas. And like tomorrow, she's starting her own podcast.
Starting my own podcast. I'm super excited for that. It was an impulse, like it's been an idea for a while. And then last night I was just doing my makeup. I was live on Facebook, and then I got live on Instagram. Nobody really watches my makeup lives, but whatever, I still do them.
Sometimes a lot of people watch them. It depends on the timing.
Yeah, it really depends on timing. And anyway, I was doing my makeup, and then I told Yannick, like, hey, remember the idea that I got for the podcast? He had no idea what I was talking about. He was like, no, you didn't. I'm like, yes, I did, but he was probably on his phone working or something when I gave him the idea. And then I told him I really want to do a podcast. So within an hour or two, we filmed the preview for it. We set up my little corner thing, and we just basically, I just told him, let's do it on Monday. And yeah, we set the date and the time, and yeah, tomorrow I'm gonna be having my podcast at 8 p.m.
Yeah, it's called Self Love Healing with Desi Coco. Go follow her page and join her 8 p.m. Central Time tomorrow. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be very nice because the first topic is facing fears, and that's something that she has spent a lot of time facing fears and leveling up and like dealing with her anxieties and her challenges along the way, and has wanted to give up many times, but never gives up. So that's a fun moment where, and those are the moments that really I value a lot, because this process of learning and becoming better at learning. I'm going to tell you something. One of the things that Des had to learn during this pandemic was a lot of digitalization beyond just her English classes, also with the podcast and with her YouTube videos. She just edited her first video and uploaded it to her YouTube channel last week. When I met her, she told me, I cannot sit still on the computer for more than an hour. I cannot edit videos. I don't have the patience or the mental capacity for that. She spent 2 whole days editing and doing micro cuts and exploring different things, and she really enjoyed it. And I was like, see, you said you couldn't do it, and look at you now. Many times we conclude we can't do something because we're trying to do it when we are drained, when we're insecure, when we don't have enough confidence or experience. And sometimes we're just going to take small steps, little by little. And we all have different rhythms, and we all have different pasts and traumas and insecurities that can make the road a little bit more bumpy. But for Des, one thing I've learned as a leader and a business owner is the majority of the time where people tell you they can't do something, it's just that they haven't found the way to do it that works for them. So the same way we mentioned that with her English classes, her first boss was like, oh yeah, kids can only do half an hour classes. And then the new boss was like, no, we are going to find out how to make dynamic classes, because this is going to be the future for a while, and we're not just going to give up like that. And then now she gives amazing 2-hour classes where the kids are super happy and in bigger groups and with more challenges, but with actual better results. And before, she couldn't sit down more than, like, if it weren't a class, she couldn't sit at the computer for more than 10 minutes. And she said it max an hour. I think she has ADD, by the way. She hasn't gotten it diagnosed, but I'm pretty sure she does. So she had a really hard time sitting and concentrating. Interestingly enough, now she just spent 2 days editing a video, and she loved the process and enjoyed it and had fun and was like, I want to sit down and edit my video. How do I do this? And how do I do that? And a few months ago, that would have been unheard of. So this idea that you can't do something, get rid of that. Never compare yourself to others. There are other people that have more experience, more confidence, more mental power right now, more energy, more curiosity right now. But that doesn't mean that you need to shut yourself off, because one of the things that I've seen with learning is many times we convince ourselves that we can't learn something. We convince ourselves that we can't do something. And then we kind of be like, oh, that's your responsibility. That's your, like Steve, I don't know if he's around. He even for many years said he couldn't cook, and now he loves to cook. And it's just sometimes you
I
just
said I would never live with someone, and now I live with Yannick.
there you go. Never say never. Isn't that a Justin Bieber movie? uh,
Yeah.
I, something like that. Anyway, it's a very, very common saying.
Wants to be in front of the camera.
Yeah,
to do
Kit
what
Kat,
she's
she
saying.
always gets on camera. It's like whenever there's a camera, she gets on. The camera stops rolling, and weirdly
just-
enough, she knows that
She's ignoring us. Like Kit Kat does not come on this table often. But if we're doing the podcast and she knows the camera's on, she wants to be here. As soon as the camera's off, she just ignores us for the rest of the day.
Manatee says, well, when you have 6 or 7 teachers and you live with them and a kid all day, ... you have to learn from them. And then she says, Des is very lucky to have all of you and vice versa because we can learn from each other. Yeah, the people you spend the most time with, they obviously influence you a lot. And they can influence you to kind of become more defeatist and they can cut your wings, or they can challenge you, they can inspire you, they can support you, and they can be a big part of helping you get to the next level. And when you start building your support network and you start asking for help and you start exploring things and you start having curiosity about possibilities, all of a sudden this process of having more learning efficiency becomes so much easier. And I know a lot of you are probably expecting, oh yeah, let's talk about the multiple different learning styles, like audible learning, visual learning, kinesthetic learning, blah, 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 all these different types. And I mean, all of those you can Google. Those are important too. And I think with the majority of people, you really need a mix, because even if you know that you learn more one way or another, having only one way really limits your learning potential. So find out, yes, what's your base, but feel free to explore beyond your base, because sometimes we conclude, oh, I can only learn like this. Bullshit. No offense, but bullshit. And I say this to dear Des. Sometimes she concludes, I can't do this, or I can't do that, or that's impossible, or no, you do this because I can't do that. That's too much for me, right? Sometimes she gets in that mode. And then a few hours later, a few minutes later, or a few days later, or a few weeks later, or sometimes a few months later, depending on how big the fears and insecurities related to taking that next step are, she's like, okay, I'm ready to try it now. I'm ready to do it. Let me see. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, you just did this better than me. Oh my goodness, wow. Oh my goodness, now I'm learning from you. Oh. And like also, for example, video games. Right now she's been doing a bit of video game streaming. That's something that in her family, they never really saw as a positive thing, and especially because she's a girl and things like that. And she's always liked it, but there's always that kind of guilt and shame. And it's kind of been very hard for her to fully enjoy it. And the funny thing is, all of a sudden, like she had a lot of conclusions. No, I can't sit down for too long. I can't do this. I can't do that. And all of a sudden, 2 or 3 hours go by, and it's like, and she's playing with her brother, and she's like, oh, one more round. Are you sure you can't? No, I have to get up early in the morning. No, one more round.
Yeah.
So this idea that you can't sit still and concentrate is bullshit. But the idea that it is more challenging for you than for others, I believe that. The idea that you need something to boost your energy or to distract you, or you might need some support, or you need to change the way you do it, change the chair you sit on, for example, on the podcast. How big of a difference does it not make to have the right chair?
It makes a big difference. My back doesn't hurt. Now, I saw a bag of Subway cookies, and now I want Subway cookies.
And it's an empty bag. Yeah. Yeah.
So random. I'm sorry. I was just thinking about Subway cookies.
Yeah, we had some Subway cookies yesterday. So please don't conclude that you can't learn something. Don't conclude that you can't concentrate. Understand that the process of getting to a spot where you can concentrate, the first step is facing fears. The first step is realizing, I am uncertain about this. I am insecure about this. So I am concluding that I can't do it so that I don't fail and fall on my face. So it's better to call myself the dumb one. How many times have you called yourself dumb?
I've called myself dumb so many times. And I definitely, one thing I want to add to what Yannick is saying is, Yes, if we put ourselves into these cages and you say I can't do it, well, you won't be able to do it. Of course. So, but if you open yourself up to, for example, like Yannick said, I don't like sitting down in front of a computer for a long time. So when I started playing video games, for me it was like, oh my gosh, this is a waste of time. What am I doing? I like it, but I don't like it that much. It makes my head hurt, my brain gets fried, blah 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 blah. When I For my birthday, I got this awesome, beautiful headset with a microphone built in. And when I start a game, and there are people that also have microphones, and they're nice to me because some gamers are not nice. I enjoy the game more, and I don't want the game to end because I'm talking to them and I'm having fun. And that's the thing. Like, I'm still sitting in front of a computer playing. I've just found other options that make it easier for me and more fun. And I also started streaming. So I'm not just sitting on the computer playing video games and regenerating myself, but I'm also streaming and I'm gaining followers, I'm gaining views, and I'm close to, well, where I can actually start getting paid for that. And I hope soon, in a couple of months, I will be getting paid for just being in front of the computer playing video games, something that I already do as a regenerative thing and activity. And getting paid for it and getting stars is amazing.
Context on Facebook, on Twitch, on YouTube. If you play video games and you reach a certain amount of subscribers, people can donate money to you. You can put ads in your videos and you can do different things to monetize. Two of the members of the team here, when the pandemic started, they had never really played many video games before. One of them more than the other, but they found that was a good regenerative space if they did it socially, a little bit like Des. That when they discovered that you can make friends around the world and hang out and chat with voice and feel connected to the world, it was like wonderful. And then they discovered streamers, and they're like, let's try streaming, and they've actually made I don't know, maybe $50 in the last month already, and they're just getting started. This is the first month in.
And they already played this amount of video games.
They already paid these hours.
Yeah.
Now they just get a bit of money for it, and they make more interesting relationships, and they enrich the process. Yeah. From a few months ago, one of the main person in charge of this whole getting into streaming thing, he was like, I don't like games, I don't do games, I can't do games. It's like I can't concentrate, and my hands are messed up because he was born with his fingers together, and he had to get many operations. And I was like, I can't. And then now it's like, I don't want it to stop, and they really enjoy it. So there are many conclusions that we've reached many premature conclusions because of our insecurities. Many times because we compare ourselves to others. But as Des said, she has a hard time concentrating on things and sitting down and sitting still. But if she does it in a more social setting, all of a sudden she loses track of time and doesn't get frustrated. Also, if she has the right chair, she can sit still for way longer than if she has a chair that gives her back pain within 20 minutes. A good chair makes a huge difference. If you're doing home office or home learning, invest in a good chair. I don't care if you need to invest over $1,000.
Get yourself a good chair.
Now that we are in a situation where you are sitting down more hours, a good chair is worth it. You don't need to spend $1,000. But all I'm saying is, a lot of people have this idea that a chair is like, ooh, I'm going to spend more money on my computer, on my phone, on my this, on my that. Invest in a good chair, and also invest in a good monitor if you're on your computer a lot. A good monitor and a good chair make a huge difference. Also, good mouse and a good keyboard that have good ergonomics that don't hurt. Again, these small things can make a huge difference in terms of how fast you get burned out, how fast you get frustrated, how fast you get brain fried. And really, sometimes it's just setting up the right space. Sometimes it's redecorating. Sometimes it's moving things around. We've moved things around so many times in this pandemic. And every time we move things around with the intention of optimizing our spaces, we become more productive. We get less frustrated, and we get less drained in that space. And with Des, it was really a big process of challenging her to face a lot of fears, challenging her to reevaluate a lot of premature conclusions, because not only has she been very hard on herself, a lot of people around her have called her dumb, have called her slow, have told her, like, she's not the smart one, and like you've been put down a lot over the years.
Yeah.
So you concluded that like you took on that identity. And I'm also a college dropout. I also failed miserably in academic settings. But now I travel the world. Well, pre-pandemic, I traveled the world. Pre-pandemic, I traveled the world. I felt like I've been on stage and filled auditoriums of 500 people that are there to listen to me speak and teach. And like I thought I was the dumb one. I thought I was the slow one. I thought I was the incapable one. And what I've learned is I'm actually damn smart. There are different types of intelligence, there are different types of learning, and I learned very well by teaching myself.
Did she drink from my water?
No, she peeked in, but no, she didn't. So just get rid of those conclusions that you can't, or that you're incapable, or that you're dumb, or that you're slow, or that
I'm the dumbest. Well, you know, the one of the only few people in my family that don't go, that like, you know, didn't go to college and stuff. And
well, you didn't. You dropped out.
I did, and I dropped out. But I have a lot of friends that studied, that were smarter than me in school, that studied to be a nurse, to be a doctor, to be this, that had their whole life ahead of them, and I was so upset that I didn't. And now, if I look at myself and I look at them, they're still acting as if they were in high school. They're still acting as if they were 18. They're still creating drama. They're being toxic. And most of them still live with their family. And it's not me trying to put them down or anything like that, but to uplift people that have been told that just because they don't go to college, or just because they don't have their life together at 18 or 19 or 20, doesn't
or
mean,
30 or 40 or 50.
Doesn't mean that you're like at low. No, there are so many people out there that have a college degree and they're in debt. And half of the people I know don't even work in the field that they studied at in college. Like, they're out here doing other things. Like, I'm a teacher. I don't have a degree and being a teacher or anything. I didn't go to college for that. In fact, I went to college to be a fashion designer, and I dropped out because I couldn't pay for it anymore. But throughout my 3 years of teaching, I have actually given class to teachers that do have a degree and that are trying to make their English better. And I've given classes to these teachers, and it's weird. And I get so much hate from teachers that have a degree, because they're all like, well, why don't you just get a degree if you're that good? But it's not about that. It's just I choose. Like,
there are different paths to the same results.
And I'm sorry if I'm giving classes to people that already went through the degree path. It's not something that I want to go through, but you know, here I am. And that's the thing. A lot of people always put me down. I had friends telling me, you're gonna end up so bad because you don't do anything. And I had so many people saying, like, you don't have a future, you don't have this, you don't have that. And I ended up, right now in my life, I am doing so much better than my generation graduate people that are still living off their parents, that are still living with their parents. And there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you're creating something, as long as you're working. But a lot of these people, I know for a fact that they're running around acting like high schoolers and creating drama and just being a toxic person. And I'm just like, yo, high school is over. I thought I was the one that wasn't over high school. And then there's actually a lot of people that isn't. But yeah, just know that just because you're considered the dumb one, which me, myself, and I've failed most of my classes and I had to pay off high school. You know, that's something I'm proud of, but I did.
She had to bribe her teachers.
English, and that's been one of the few subjects in school that I was very good at, and I was very advanced in. And I was really good at it. So I used that, and instead of focusing on everything I was so bad on, just paid those off. But I used my ability to learn this language very fast. I used it, and here I am.
Yeah. And Manatee says it's about believing in yourself. That's what makes a difference. Yeah, if you believe you can learn something, you can learn it. Right now, we have more resources than ever. We have access to the internet. Our parents and grandparents didn't have that growing up. We are super lucky that we have that. I mean, you can learn anything. I've learned web design. I've learned filmography. I've learned to edit videos. I've learned so many different things online just by Googling things, just by going online and being like, yo, I want to learn this. And the fact is, there's different ways of learning for everyone, and it's just about finding your rhythm and your style. Some people learn on YouTube. Some people need a digital course that's well structured, organized. Some people need an in-person class. Some people need to read a book and just read books and kind of do it at their own speed. Some people need a tutor to complement their learning because the teachers they had in school weren't good enough. I honestly wish I had tutors growing up. I don't know why I didn't. But I kind of look back and I'm like, you know what? With a tutor, this would have made the difference. And but a lot of it was because I concluded that I was dumb, and now I'm traveled the world teaching people, and now I'm a business owner that trains and instructs and teaches so many different skill sets that would require so many different degrees, and like computer engineering, basically, like it's like infrastructure, networking. Like I didn't have to hire someone to do networking. I did. I hired Steve, my best friend, and he's helped a lot with that, setting up servers and stuff. But like the amount of things I've learned online, it's insane. Okay, so just understand that doesn't matter how you did in school. Most of the successful entrepreneurs are either college dropouts who didn't even make it to college, or went to like small little insignificant colleges, but like, or were terrible in school, but they found something they're passionate about. And one thing we talk about in Develop Yomit is when you have enough passion, you have double energy, double confidence, double perseverance, double capacity, and all of a sudden the impossible becomes possible. The difficult becomes easy. And that thing you thought you never would be able to do, all of a sudden you do it with ease, and you lose track of time. And it's like, ooh, how did I do that? I can't believe it. Sometimes he like comes to me, did you see that? Did you see that? Did you see what I just did? I can't believe I did that. I can't. That happens when you find something that you're so passionate about that all of a sudden your insecurities and your excuses and the things that drain you and stress you, they don't affect you as much because you have double battery. So you don't run out of steam so fast. You don't run out of juice before the finish line. So start believing in yourself. Have the curiosity to discover how do you learn, what's your path, what's your direction. Make sure to have a direction, because without a direction, no matter how much people force you to sit in front of a computer, you're not going to learn. And if you're a parent to a kid right now going through homeschooling, make sure to inspire them to want to learn. Tell them about the possibilities. Don't call them dumb. Don't call them stupid. Don't call them irresponsible. Help them dream about a career path or possibilities or a lifestyle that they want. Help them dream about that mansion. Help them dream about that Ferrari. Help them dream about whatever it is. I mean, those are obviously the most kind of cliche things one can mention. And that's not what everyone wants. Some people just want a beautiful, harmonious, stable family life.
No, I want a mansion, and I know exactly how I want it.
There you go. So here's the thing. Don't cut your children's wings. Don't cut your family members' wings, and don't cut your own wings. Don't put anyone in boxes. Don't limit anyone. And realize that the moment you really get passionate about something and you start having direction, you become unstoppable. It's as simple as that. And those things that you really think you can't do, the amount of times I should have given up as a leader, as a boyfriend, as an entrepreneur. The amount of times I should have given up because things just weren't flowing, things were stuck, things were difficult. I mean, I can't count them with 10 hands. But it was just that believing that it is possible. And that believing that it doesn't have to happen right now. Patience is a big part of learning and growth. It might take you 6 months or a year for you to have the confidence and the knowledge and the support network to face that fear and learn that thing. The core team of Develop Your Element, I'm going to be honest with you. The first year, there was a lot of conflicts, there was a lot of insecurities, there was traumas that everyone had to deal with. People didn't have full direction yet. They didn't know which direction they wanted to get. They didn't really know what roles they wanted within the company. And it was really much a lot of like, I see potential in you. And we like, there's something here, but like, let's explore it. And I just took the time and I was like, try this, explore this, see what works for you. And it was impressive how that process of just exploring what works for you, exploring what's your path, exploring what's your role, changed everything. And people that never thought they would do graphic design work and video editing, and now video editing and doing graphic design like crazy. People that thought they would never be able to give a class, all of a sudden are giving classes. People that never thought they would be able to be on camera, now are on camera. The amount of times as a leader that I've been told I can't do this, and I just go, oh, okay. But little by little, I just challenge them. Do you want to try this? Do you want to join? You're invited, no pressure. Here, explore this. It's like, wow. Manatee says, I did not notice any of that, Yannick. I enjoyed the whole thing. What was I talking about that you mentioned that? Yeah, the first year, yeah, it was a big mess. It was a big mess. We got a lot of stuff done in the first year, but it was very messy the first year of building this team. There were so many insecurities and so much like people would bring their traumas from their past jobs and think that I would be that abusive leader that they had in the past, and they would see anything that reminded them of the past and they would get super worried or super offended and super this and it was like, whoa. You've assumed a lot of things based on a previous context, and that context isn't real here. And that's one of the things I learned is that if you want people to open up to learn, you have to motivate them, you have to give them direction, but you have to believe in them, you have to invest in them, you have to be flexible with them. Kit Kat is trying to get your food. You have to have the patience to understand that sometimes it's going to take months for them to get to where you want them to get. And it's one of the hardest things as a leader to sometimes do, because as a leader, many times in the beginning, in the early days, I used to be like, oh, I can do it faster myself. I'll just do it myself. And yes, I could do every single task faster myself. But when you have a team of 10, 15 people, and each one is doing a task at the same time, guess what? You cannot be doing 15 tasks at a time. So as a leader, I had to learn to extend that patience to other people. But I want you to reflect on, are you extending that patience to yourself and realizing that sometimes it takes you time to get to that point where you're going to take that step? Are you giving yourself that privilege, that luxury, that kindness? Because not that the guy that edits most of our videos right now, for the first year or two of knowing him, he didn't edit a single video. When the pandemic hit, it was like, oh my goodness, we need to ramp up productivity. He opened up himself to exploring something he thought he wouldn't be good at. He can edit more videos in a day than anyone else here. The truth is, David, right now with his video game stream that they're making money on and they're growing, and he has so many insecurities about his experience, his past, his body, his clothes, his this, his that getting on camera has always been a challenge, but he's always wanted to get on camera. He has had so many insecurities about playing video games because of his hand and mobility and stuff. Now he's doing that every day and doing great. Des, when I met her, 90% of the things she does today she couldn't do because when I met her, she literally couldn't even get out of her room almost, and she would get a panic attack, everything in 2 seconds, and she would go to a parking lot, get a panic attack. She would not be able to get in an elevator, and if she did, she would be crying the whole way. If she went to a supermarket, she couldn't even be in line because she would get anxiety and a panic attack. Everything would give her panic attack or anxiety, so like her world was very small when I met her. But she's ambitious, she's curious, she is stubborn, she's always seeking to grow and learn and evolve. And now tomorrow she's launching her first launching her first personal podcast. And now she spent the last 6-7 weeks in every episode. She's just behind camera right now eating some sushi because she got a little hungry, but she's still here. And that's the thing. Improving your learning efficiency is really a matter of believing in yourself. It's really a matter of having patience and flexibility with yourself and having curiosity and taking the time to finding what works for you. And sometimes it's about recalculating your path. Sometimes it's about asking for help. Sometimes it's about slowing down and not forcing results. Sometimes it's about hiring a tutor. Sometimes it's just being like, you know what? I want to do this differently. Sometimes it's just buying a different office chair or a different monitor to get less fatigued sitting in front of the screen. I mean, there's so many different things you can do to make things easier. So how can you create spaces that are more regenerative, that provide you with the confidence and peace and comfort for you to get into a state of learning? But don't stay in your comfort zone either, because you need to keep seeing results and growth. Otherwise, you will get discouraged. So how do you avoid getting discouraged? You challenge yourself. You take more steps. And even though you have moments where you feel like you can't do this or you can't do that or you're overwhelmed, you take another step and you surprise yourself. And if you fall, that's okay. Falling is part of the process. Making mistakes is part of the process. Getting rejected is part of the process. If you're not failing, if you're not being rejected, if you're not being judged, you're probably not innovating enough and you're not stepping out of your comfort zone enough. You have to make a fool out of yourself sometimes in this path to the life that you want. And when it comes to learning, sometimes, like, you cannot learn a language without sounding like a total dumbass. And this is something that a lot of people have not learned a second or a third language because they are so afraid of sounding like a fool. So they don't talk because they don't practice because they don't want to sound like a fool. But people that don't give power to that and actually are willing to make a fool out of themselves, they learn super fast, and they learn even without school and without teachers sometimes. Steve, super extroverted, very electric. He needs to make friends anywhere he goes. He needs to explore new places all the time. Guess what? He can have a full Spanish conversation, a bit broken, make a fool out of himself, say the wrong thing sometimes, but he can go anywhere and talk to anyone because he made the goal of socializing, making friends, exploring more important than the goal of not making a fool out of himself. There's so many languages I could still be speaking or that I could have learned along the way. I already speak 3 fluently, but 3, English, Danish, and Spanish. But like, I used to speak Japanese, but then I moved to Denmark and I was like, I'm not going to practice Japanese here. I don't want to look like a fool. So I forgot Japanese. I used to speak Dutch when I was little. The first 5 years of my life, I lived in Holland. I was born in Holland, in the Netherlands. I spoke Dutch. I didn't want to sound like a fool, so I stopped speaking it. I almost lost my Spanish and my Danish when I moved to Canada because I didn't want to sound like a fool. So I only spoke English for 7 years. And then it was like, oh my goodness, I need to relearn Spanish and I need to relearn Danish. Luckily, I never abandoned either fully, so I managed to pick them up quite fast. My writing in Danish is a little sluggish, but I mean, I can speak perfectly fine. And this is something that I want you to reflect on. How many times have you tried to control your image or your process so much that you haven't even allowed yourself to expose yourself to the practice that you need. A certain someone here sometimes wants to skip steps and wants results right away. I'm not going to name a name, but someone wants it perfect from the first moment.
Me.
And I have my moments that I do it too. But like, she's the type that always wants to skip the tutorials. Always wants to get right into the action and then gets frustrated that she doesn't understand what she's doing. And then after she throws her tantrum and gets it through her system that she was having challenges along the way, then she opens up to, okay, now I'm ready to learn. Explain to me how it works. But first she's like, I can't read tutorials, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do this is annoying, why is it this complicated, it shouldn't be this complicated. And then I know that after she's done her little tantrum, a few minutes later, or a few hours later, or a few days later, or a few months later, depending on how big the fears and insecurities are, she's going to be like, ooh, okay, I'm ready to learn now. And then she learns. And then she goes, this is so much easier than I thought. Or, I'm enjoying this more than I expected to. Wow, this is awesome. How many times have you not been surprised?
A lot. I'm getting a lot of anxiety. It's almost 6.
Ah, yeah. 6 o'clock is her pill time. Well, it's 5:20, so we still have time. But yes, we've been waking up earlier too now with her new job, so her anxiety pills are out of whack too. So that's fun. Yeah,
I'm taking them the time that I'm supposed to be taking them, but since with the pandemic I started sleeping in later, I start taking them around 11 a.m., 12 p.m. And now that I'm going back to taking them again at 9, at 8, where I'm supposed to be taking them, it's been a little bit very weird for me and my body to get used to the fact that there's a bigger time lapse.
Yeah.
That I don't take the pill. So now when it's 6, I get a bit anxious.
Yeah.
Around 5 or 4:30. It's when I start getting a bit anxious, which is around the podcast, when the podcast starts. So that's why I'm usually very anxious throughout I hadn't noticed. I just noticed that.
Yeah. No. The podcast is poured very timed very poorly. If we were to do it around peak pill efficiency,
yeah.
But
peak, it would be like noon.
Yeah. No, exactly. But we do the Spanish one before the English one. But yeah. Anyway, to help with your anxiety, we should anyway wrap up because this topic really, the main takeaway I want you guys to take from this is stop blaming others, stop limiting yourself, stop putting yourself in a box. Don't get distracted with conspiracy theories or blame games or resentment and frustration and the politics of everything, and start getting into like, who am I? Who do I want to be? Where do I want to get in life? What do I need to learn in order to get there? How can I do it? Where do I have most insecurities? How can I regenerate? How can I redesign my spaces, especially my workspaces, but all my spaces? How can I build stronger relationships and better support networks so that I have more confidence facing fears? How can I build literally a team of cheerleaders around me and educators around me too? Because you don't just want cheerleaders, you also want people that challenge you and that educate you and help you level up. And sometimes they got to give you some critical feedback, and that's part of the journey. But how do you build that team that kind of helps you to get to where you want to be? And Manatee says also, when you learn new things, it's like you gain more self-respect and self-esteem. Yes, 100,000,000%. It's like entering into a new world inside. There's an infinite world outside, but also inside. Yes. Des now, I don't know if you guys have noticed. Well, you've definitely noticed. The beginning of the season, how many podcasts did you miss?
I only missed like 4.
Okay, I don't know, 4 or 5, something like that. But now she's been in every single episode for the last, 6 weeks or so. Sometimes showing up late, but every time it gets easier. And the truth is, it's just a matter of like, I take one more step and sometimes I'm going to fall, but I'm going to get back up again. If she had beaten herself up and told herself, I cannot do podcasts because I have anxiety, she wouldn't be here right now. But she realized I have anxiety. Can't be so strict on myself. So yes, maybe I can't always do it exactly at the right time. So I might be a little late. I might be a little anxious. I might be a little shaky. But instead of hiding it, I just tell the viewers, hey, I'm having anxiety. I'm going to stand up and move around a little bit. And I'm going to sit down again. And I'm going to do these things. And then and that actually is something when you're like, okay, I have these challenges. I have these things. I'm not going to let those things define me. I'm just going to be like, okay, I'm going to work around it. She could easily have been like, because of my anxiety, I can't do this. But instead, it's like, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to work around it. And I might have to have a different chair. I might need a fan. I might need to take breaks.
Yeah, I have a fan. Regardless of how cold it is, I always have a fan because a fan really helps when I get anxious because my body goes numb. Like I can't feel anything. And the fan, having it on, it really helps me feel something at least. So
yeah.
the fan really helps.
So sometimes it's just that. It's like, and yes, every step you take, for example, when she started the streaming of video games, all of a sudden she got more on camera, and you guys know from previous episodes, she has an eating disorder and has been fighting her self-esteem and based on her body image and stuff a lot. And getting on camera for her is really hard because of her body image. And all of a sudden, every time she gets on camera, the next time it gets easier. And when she started streaming, all of a sudden she got inspired to do YouTube videos again. So it's just finding a way that works for you. And streaming helps her because she's distracted. She's chatting with people. She's playing a game. So she's not focused fully on the fact that she's on camera. And then she enjoys the fact that she's on camera because she likes being on camera, but without as many insecurities because she has enough distractions to help her not give so much power to those kind of negative voices. So also, what distractions do you need to not give so much power to your negative voices? And how can you also have inner dialogues with your inner negative voices and kind of keep them in check so they don't win? Because many times we let those inner voices win. And Des has a lot of challenges. Every day she's fighting negative voices.
And anxiety.
And the fact of the matter is, you got to keep fighting. You got to keep trooping. And every time you take one more step, your life gets a little more interesting. And you can be having a lot of anxiety like Des is having right now. She's having a lot of anxiety.
Go lay down.
It's actually impressive. And if you notice something interesting, every episode, when she gets into this anxious mode, the first thing she does is like she stands up and moves around a little bit. She sits down and she challenges herself as much as possible. And then, sometimes she reaches a point where it's like, okay, I have to go now. I have too much anxiety. But she challenges herself to get control of it instead of being like, this is going to define me. So whatever it is that you're having a hard time with, ask help if you need help. Educate yourself. Find different routes. Get creative. Don't pressure yourself. Don't make it so perfect. That's another thing with perfectionism. One of the reasons why we don't learn enough is because we want to be perfect. And that's like with the English or with any language. You're going to have to speak imperfectly for a while before you get perfect. That's part of the path. Okay? So everything that you're going to learn, there's going to be that period. So open yourself up to make a fool out of yourself and be a noob or a beginner or an apprentice or whatever it is, and be willing to start at the bottom, because it's never really the bottom, because it's like you're just building something on the 11th floor instead of down in the basement, so it's not the bottom. Like Manatee says, I love this phrase that she says a lot, I know my worth. I just love it, and I have to repeat it a lot.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh. I sometimes feel when I say that I sound too conceited.
No, but it's a good. That's one of the things I admire and respect about you. Even though you hate yourself sometimes and you give power to negative voices, your true self is ambitious, is curious, is very driven, and has a lot of self-respect and doesn't let anyone take advantage of you. And actually, one of the things I admire about you the most is how good you are at standing up to people. Sometimes I put up with abuse and things that I shouldn't put up with, and I bite my tongue too much. And you're good at biting your tongue, but you're also good at being like, okay, this is where I draw my line, and this is the self-respect I deserve. And that's something that I'm learning from you. Slow and steady, but I am. So yeah, it's a very, very good thing that the moment you know your worth, you're gonna fall a million times. That's okay, but keep getting back up. Des, the amount of times she's been like, I can't anymore. I'm overwhelmed. I don't want to live anymore. What other phrases do you say? I want to remove my YouTube channel and my this and my that. I want to delete everything. I want to go back home and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes she has those moments where she just like gets overwhelmed. And then 20 minutes pass, an hour passes, a day passes. She goes like, oh, I have this idea. I want to explore this. I want to do that. And she takes one more step. And each time she takes one more step, those voices get less powerful. Those kind of negative narratives get less powerful. But she has them. She just overrides them. And the process of overriding it can sometimes be hours, can sometimes be days, but she always overrides them. And that's the thing. It's not about how many times you fall. It's about how many times you get back up again. And with learning, it's that simple. Don't give up because it's frustrating. Figure out how to make it less frustrating. And many times you eliminate the frustration by reducing the amount of pressure on yourself, by not forcing it and finding the fun in it, the joy in it, by finding goals that make you passionate enough so that the passion itself drives you through it. That's one thing she's very good at. She wants to live in the penthouse across the street.
The 2-story one.
There's a 2-story penthouse across the street. And she's driven and she's like, I want that penthouse, so I'm going to keep showing up because I want that penthouse. Have something that drives you. Because all of a sudden,
I feel I'm going to laugh my ass off if I go inside. Like, on the outside, it looks beautiful. But if I go inside the penthouse, I'm going to laugh my ass off and I'm just like, no, this is not it. Because that's the apartments over here in Central Park.
Yeah. But again, it's just find those things that drive you. Yeah. And when you have something that drives you enough, it will help you drive through the obstacles. Drive through, above them and around them and under them and whatever it is you need to do to get past them. And yes, there are going to be moments like you're going to feel like you're incapable of learning or adapting. And that's okay. Cut yourself some slack. Rome wasn't built in a day. Take your time. Take your time. And you're going to surprise yourself. When you start cutting yourself some slack and allowing things to be more imperfect, things are going to get better faster too. That's a big one. I mean, there's so many different things. But you can learn whatever it is you want. Just find out your way. And don't force it one way, and don't try to replicate other people's ways if they don't work for you. The way that Nata learned video editing is very different than the way that we learned video editing, and very different from the way that I learned video editing, and very different from how Des has been learning video editing. Super, 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 super different. But we are learning it or have learned it. So that's kind of where we're at with this topic. And yeah, I think this is a good point to wrap up. I will let you guys go. Thank you very much, as usual, for your company, for your questions, for your encouraging words. And yeah, try to tune in tomorrow for Des's first podcast at 8 p.m. Central Time. She's over there being like, yeah, she had to go over to the couch, but she's cheering on from over by the couch. So yeah. With that in mind, I say thank you, thank you, thank you. Love you guys. You guys are the best. And yeah, see you next week. Same time, same place.